Hello everyone, I hope all of you are doing great. Today I'm gonna go over week 13 demo. This is gonna be the last demo for us in this course. Now, if you want to work with me, please clone this project, just copy this because I'm gonna modify week 10 demo. And after you do that, just go here and just rename that to week 12 demo. Now, if I just run that because I haven't changed anything yet here, if we just run it, here we go. Now I have this application. I can say CVRG and then password sign in, and here we go. Now we got the data back. This is our application, but right now I want to change this from what do we have right now, which is a traditional web application, and I want to use Ajax. Now, what is Ajax? In very simple word, Ajax, it is synchronous JavaScript and XML. Now, why do we need Ajax? If you look here, this is a very good explanation here. This is the traditional web model. What do we have here? Imagine this is the JSP page, like this one. Okay, this one here. And anytime that I want to do any request, like anything, any change, for example, I want to click on this, what will happen? They will send a request to the web server, and the web server will create a new HTML, completely new HTML to us, and resend it back to us. And here is the problem. Why do we need to create a whole HTML page for just doing something like this? Like if I just say cancel, by the way, if I say cancel edit, they will recreate that HTML page on the server side and then send it back to us. This is a lot of work needed. A lot of resources are being wasted. Why? Because we have JavaScript. And JavaScript could work here at this side on the browser. And they, for example, if I want to, let's say I want to make this empty, I don't need to send that to the browser. I can just say cancel edit and JavaScript will handle that. They will just remove the data from the title and contents. And for example, here, when I reload the page, why do I need any time that I just say refresh? I need to like get a new HTML page again and again, because the only thing that I need, anything that would change is actually this list. Therefore, why I don't ask JavaScript, for example, can you go and grab this list for me, and how we can do that? For example, when we reload the page, I will run a JavaScript file. The JavaScript file will ask the web server, for example, can you give me all notes for this user? And then this web server will return XML. Now, XML is a data type, like it's a markup language that we can send data. This is XML. This is how it looks like. But by the way, we are not going to use XML. This is, for example, this is how we can send data. For example, here I have a student list. This is the first student. Here's the second student, and etc. Now, what we are going to use, by the way, even though it's called Ajax, but we use something called JSON, which is, this is the most common thing right now. It's called JavaScript object notation. If I just say JSON example, and if you just look here, for example, okay, this contains an array. Yeah, this is a JSON object. For example, it looks similar to the JSON object, to the JavaScript object. I have ID, first name, last name, and this is what we are going to do. Again, instead of sending back here an HTML page that contains all data, no, I have the HTML. I just need to get the data, and then I will fill the data inside the HTML. Now, how can I do that with JavaScript? From your previous semesters, you should have learned something called DOM. And DOM in JavaScript. And here, for example, we have data object manipulation, where JavaScript can manipulate the HTML page and the CSS of it. Therefore, if JavaScript has the data, they can start changing the everything there. Right now, for example, I have the same project as I said, but I will do some changes right now. Let's just open source pages. I will remove anything for Node Server here. Okay, I will remove the completed class because there are a lot of code that we need to change. I will go step by step. Let's first remove the Node Server class. And I have the new one here. Should be here. Yeah, this one. And We will go over each single part of it, but I just want to reformat that. Okay. This is the first part. Now I need to change also the web information. Web information. Which one? Okay, the notes. I need to remove it and add the new one, which is this one, yeah. Okay, now before, if you remember, this is how the node.jsp looks like before I remove it. We have a lot of JSTL. Right now, we don't need JSTL anymore. We can still use JSTL if we want, and you will see that, okay, I can use it, but we are going to rely on JavaScript for anything that I want to render on this page. Therefore, what I will do right now, I will just select everything. I say, okay, now, oh, I didn't copy that. Yeah, just copy this. And this is the same page. Now, if I save it, I think I need to rerun that application. Okay, let me just close the. Okay, now let's run this. And now let's go with and then password. Okay, now as you can see, we didn't change a lot. I will tell you what we have. But right now, for example, we don't have the notes because remember, I say if we need data, we will ask Ajax, please go and get the data and then manipulate this page. This is what we want to do. Now let's go back here to the node.jsp. Node.jsp right now just have nodes for, and then they are specifying the email. Okay, they are saying, okay, for whom this nodes. And here they have an href that sent a request for login. And here they have your notes. And as you can see, right now I have an ordered list. See that? I have an empty list. There's no list. There's no node inside it. Like there is no elements right now. I will fill this asking with the help from JavaScript. And here we have a form. And form, right now, if you notice, like if we just need to compare, for example, login to JSP, we were using no class or ID, like we were not mentioning anything. But right now, because we are going to use data object manipulation, I need to use ID, which is uniquely identify each element. And here, for example, I have ID, and here I have, for example, this form contains, for example, an action called notes, a method still post. It's the same. However, right now I am having an action. Okay, because right now we have a JavaScript call. And what I want to say for this form on submit, like when the user click on submit, I want you to call notes app.save. Now, okay, we haven't created this object first, but we need to create it. But as you can see, on submit is one of the many actions that we can use. And one of the actions that we can use with the form is on submit. Like when we submit the form, call this method, and we will implement that. Okay, now let's go up here. If you look here, we have a script. Now, I don't have it right now here. What we want to do is just create a new folder. I want to call this as JS, and inside it, add a new file. Not file, just say new other. Okay, we are looking for JavaScript file. Okay, now say finish. Here we go. Now we have this. I will start filling this one by one, but right now let's go back. Remember, this is HTML page will have an access to notes.jsp. Okay, I should name that. Same name should be notes. Okay, notes.js. Now, what we will do, I have some code here. Let's first, what we want to do, remember, I have here just your notes and I have empty list. Now, how can I get all the notes first? Now, if you want to look back on the servlet, here's the servlet. I still have do-get and I still have do-post. Now, let's just collapse these methods because I just want to talk about do-get right now. In the do-get, I have two portion of it. The first one is if the action is equal null. Like if you are sending me no action, I will send you notes.jsp. For example, this one. Like right now, I send no action. Okay, say again. I'm sending no action for this servlet, and therefore I just do notes.jsp. I'm returning this JSP to you, and I say return and stop the execution. Now, what about Ajax here? Now, Ajax's stuff is started here. If I send an action, in the get part, it's either going to be get all or get. Get all to get all notes, and get is to get one note. Okay, like for example here, if I just say notes, then get all. Now this it's not gonna work because I need to send my data back. I am commenting this part right now, but this is how it looks like. Okay, I should say here action equal get all. If I do that, then you will bypass this if statement because it's not equal to null. My action right now is equal get all. And then here, I will say, okay, in this, I need to get the nodes. Now, what we are doing here, we are calling the database. Like first, we are going to the node service and then the database to get all of them. Now, remember, we say here in this image, we don't send back an HTML, we send a JSON data or XML data. Now, the JSON data, to do JSON, you either go here and say JSON library Java, and then you got this JSON like library and add it to your project here, like under the library, you will add it here. But right now, because we just have a very simple example, we don't need to create, because this library help you to convert string to JSON or JSON to string. We don't need to do that right now. What we want to do is very simple. We just have two methods. These are utility methods. If you want to expand them, you will see that they are converting the string. They are converting the string to make them looks like a JSON data. Okay. Again, as I said, like you can use an external library to do that for you. And if you want to see this here, this is how it's going to look like. Like this is how JSON looks like. It the first uses these parentheses, and then they will have the first note, and this is the second note here. Okay, and this function simply they do the same thing. Like just take the note and they add this notation to it. Because remember, this is how it looks like. We don't need just to send the data. We need to send either JSON or XML. And in this case, we are sending the JSON back to it. Okay. Now here, what I want to do after I get all the notes, after we get all notes, I will call get notes JSON. This would give me the notes, and then I would respond back. Okay, and as you can see, what we are doing, we are sending this as a response back. We are just sending the JSON data. Now let's see if this works or not. If I save that and if I run it, and let's go back here, say that I want to go there, password. Okay, no, it doesn't work. Okay, right now, let's go here and say action equal get all. You see that? We got the notes in terms of JSON data. Okay, we get them. It looks like JSON data, not a string anymore, and or HTML. But right now, the problem, these data, how can I take this data and add them? I want to add them here under your notes. And this is where JavaScript will do the job. Here, for example, inside node.jsp, this is the file. I will explain it, but just give me 1 second. Okay. Here we have a clear node. Here we have save. Here we have get. Yeah, right now we just need to do the get all. Now for get all, what we're having right now, we are creating an object called notes app, and we are saying here, if the notes app exists, then use it. If it's not, then create an empty notes app. Now object in JavaScript, they can store anything. For example, inside the object, you can store a variable. For example, here I have selected note. By the way, you can say, for example, here, let's say You can say let selected node equal 0. Yes, that works fine. But just to keep a track of everything in one scope, you include everything related, for example, for this application inside one object. And therefore, for example, if you go back here, see, like to call a method, you just say nodes app, like because let's say that you have two files. Like let's say this is the first file, and here you have a second file, nodes2, for example, .js. And what if both of them they have safe? And then in this case, we will have a problem. There's going to be a conflict between them. And therefore, we include this notes app, and this notes app would help me to like have a scope for this method. Okay, like even though if I have a conflict, this conflict could be resolved using different name scope. Therefore, we are here using a JavaScript object. Inside it, I have a variable. Okay, I called selected node, and inside it, inside the same object, I have getAll. Now here we are using a synchronous method. Now, why do we need a synchronous method? Because remember, if we are sending our request, okay, if we are sending our request to web server, this web server gonna take some time to respond back to me. It's not like in like 0 seconds or on a spot. We need to wait. And if you look here, because I have a sync method, I'm telling JavaScript that, okay, I'm gonna do something that's gonna take time. And if you see here, what I'm doing, I'm say fetch, I'm sending the same request. I'm say, okay, get all, and I'm say await, or like we can say wait. Like we are waiting for data to come back to us from the web server, and then we convert the data. This is convert data to JSON. Okay. And now after that, we can like console log this notes. Before I go here, I will just save it right now. And I would just want to show you up until here, what do we have? Okay. Till here. If I save it, if we go back here, if I refresh the page, I think I have a problem here. Okay. At position 194. Okay, let me see the get all nodes. Okay. I think the problem is here in the database. Okay. Because here we are, yeah. Okay, I will just delete this quotation. Let's save it. Let's run the database again. Oh, wait. Where I'm calling this? Run file. Okay. Let's see. Okay, it works. Yeah. The problem it was there is like a double quotation. We don't need it because as I told you, like here, we are just using a hard-coded method to convert string to JSON. If we were using a library, they would solve that problem for us. But it doesn't matter right now for us. Just go to inspect and to console. Now, if you can see that here, we are printing the data that we are receiving from the web server. Now, how can I add this data here as we have it? Like here I have node number 1, here I have another code. How can I add it? Let's go see here into node.js. And what we are doing, we are going over the nodes that we have one by one. Remember that we have 2 nodes. Okay. Now what we want to do, first of all, I create an li. Create an li. Because if you go back to node.jsp, we have an order list called nodes. Okay. I want to add inside it what? I want to add li, yeah? I want to add li. Now, since we need to do that using JavaScript, what I'm doing here, I'm just saying, okay, node.js, please create an li for us. Now, after we create this li, I want to add the title. Like I want to add data to it. Now that the data are going to be the title. Now, what is the title? If you look here, this is the title. For example, title here is called code number 1. Okay, see this? This is the inner HTML. Okay, and then I add an action listener, which is this callback. Now, what do we mean by callback in JavaScript? It means if someone click on this, now I get an error because I don't have the function right now. But if I click on this, call the notes app.get, and we will see this application like this one here right now. Okay, but right now what we want to do, notes app.get based on the node ID, because if I just expand that, we still have the ID 1 and 2. Okay, and here we are, because remember that, okay, we have created this, but how we can append that to the current HTML. And here what we are doing, we are saying, okay, document.give me the notes based on this ID, because by the way, we can say find view by ID, or we can say just query selector. Both of them works fine. And here we are giving us this ID here, this one. Okay, now because we find it, we can append the child to it. We can append this li to it, and therefore we are able to get the data. If we just refresh the page, what we have here, again, like if we keep refresh the page, like any time that we refresh the page, we will make a call to get the data back. See this? Now, if we just go back here, and this is, by the way, if you are wondering, okay, why do we have this line? This will populate the UL, because let's go back here. It like who is asking the JavaScript to populate this? Now remember, if you have a node.js script, now HTML, how it works? They have a script, they go and run that script for you. And if they go and run that script first, because this is going to be like before we go to the UL, they will see this script and they will run it first. And therefore, here we are just trying to let JavaScript wait until we finish. Okay, finish loading the HTML. Like what we are doing here, we are adding an event listener. Now, what is the event listener? We are saying DOM content loaded. If the content is already loaded, then call this method. What is this callback? It is called get all, and then if you see, this is get all. Okay, this is how we are populating this. Okay, now let's see what we want to finish right now. Remember, what we have done is to get all. If I refresh the page, we are sending a request. Now, if you go to network, yeah, if we just say refresh, you see that I'm getting this page, which this is the normal request that I'm always sending. But if you just go here to the, okay, I'm getting this page, but remember this page is empty. Yeah. Now, from where I'm getting the data, it's from the second request that I'm doing, and this one here. Okay, I'm getting that after, yeah, this one. I'm sorry, this is the response. I'm getting the data from the server, and then because I got the data using JavaScript, I can edit that. Now, what I want to do right now, I want to do the get, because remember here, we say that I add a click listener. If I click on it, I want you to call get method and to get a method by ID, because remember this was an href and we were getting this node by ID. Like if I click on this, click on this. Right now it doesn't work. Why? Because if you go to the servlet, here, what do I have? I have get, but I haven't done that. Like we need to convert the data, because here we are getting the data from the database, and then I want to convert this data to JSON. Therefore, I'm calling the method getNodeJSON, this one. I'm converting this to JSON, and then I'm writing my response back. Okay, now let's save, and let's go back here. And if you want just to test that, let's say notes, and then action get, and what we want to send as well is node ID equal 1. And as you can see, we are getting just one node. Now, if I say node 2, and now we want to do that in JavaScript instead of doing that here, like hard-coded. When I click on this, we will call this function, which is this one, nodes app.get, and I will give this get method the ID, like 1 or 2. Now, if we just scroll down, this is the method. It's kind of similar to get all, but it's easier. What we are doing, we are sending the action. If you compare the action here, it's action get, and then node ID equal the ID. Okay, for example, this ID is 1, this ID is 2. Okay, and now what we are doing, this is again, it's asynchronous. It's something that's going to take time. I'm waiting until I get the response, then I convert that to JSON. Or by the way, like I'm not going to like this one is, oh, I'm sorry, I did a mistake here. We already have JSON. We convert data to JavaScript object. Okay, because already we have it as JSON, yeah, and theirs is the same. Like we take this JavaScript object notation, and then we will get JavaScript object. Okay, this is the main difference between them. They look similar, but that one is called JavaScript object notation, and this is JavaScript object. Okay, and this would convert this to JavaScript object because we are doing this in JavaScript. Now, what I want to do, remember in our example, when I want to click on this method, okay, I want to fill this. Now it works. Okay, do you see that? But how we can fill that using data object manipulation? Because remember, okay, I can add console log here. Okay, just wait. I can add console log. Yeah, like we can add console log and we can print the note that we are getting back. I just want to show you what we are getting back and then how we can fill the data. Now, if we just say inspect, go to the console. Now, if I just say code number 1, okay. Code number 1, you see that? This is how we get the ID. We get the node ID, the title, and the contents. Now, if we go back here, we got the data in this node, and then I have the form, if you remember the form, contain title, contain content, and I have, this is the title, and this is the content. Now, using DOM, what I could do, because this one has an ID called title, and this one has a content, and this content has an ID called contents as well. What we could do here, we could say, okay, document.query selector title, document.query selector contents, and then we specify the value of it, not.title, not.content. And here, I keep track of the selected node using this variable. Okay, because here we have selected node, right? Like right now by default, like if no selected node, it's going to be equal 0. However, if I click on 1 or 2, in this case, this one, it will change the value based on the ID of the current one. Okay, and then if we, by the way, and we changed also the title. Like remember here, if I just refresh the page, I have create new note. If you see here, this one, save heading, see that? This is the ID. Now, if you go here, we are changing the save heading into edit note. Okay, now if we just click on it, we change that edit note. Like if I want to say edit note 1, 2, 3, like anything that's come to your mind, just refresh. Now, if I just click edit note 1, 2, 3, okay, this is how we can change the data regarding that. And by the way, yeah, like for example, let's say concatenate this with selected node ID, for example, or node.node ID, for example, if you want just to add that. Just add a space. I'll refresh the page. Okay, now if I say this, we are edit node number 1, this is edit node number 2, and it's as simple as that. Now, what do we want to do right now? We want to fix the last problem, which is how can I save the changes, either for update or either for create a new one. Now, to create a new one, let's start with edit, for example. Now here's the code for save. You will see that here. And this one handle two things: save a new one, save a new note, and update new note. Now you will see that how we can know if this is save or update, but I will break this code one by one first, and then I will tell you what we really want to do right now. Now, if you want to save a new note or update a new note, now how can I know if I want to save or update? We can make use of the note app.selected note ID. Remember that when we say if the note selected note ID equals 0, like right now, then selected note ID variable value is what? It's equal to 0. And because it's equal to 0, that means the only action that I might click save for is just to create a new note, for example. Okay. However, if you want to, like, let's say that you have selected another note. Right now, the selected note ID is not going to be equal 0. It's going to be equal to 2. And therefore, you want me to do action update. Now, if you go back to the code in the servlet here, you will see that here I have action. Okay, this one under post. Here we have an action, and this action is either going to be create, update, or delete. Right now, in this example, we just do the create and update. Okay, now for create, again, here in the JavaScript file, I'm going to wait for here. If the selected note ID equals 0, then I will do action create. If selected note ID equal 1 or 2, then I will do update for that note. Because at the end of the day, we are using the same form. We are using the same form either for update or either for save, but based on the selected note ID variable. Okay. Now here what we are doing, first of all, we are getting the data from the title, and we are getting the data from the contents, because, for example, here I have ABC, and the content is anything, and I say save. Now, I want to get the data from the title. What I should do, first of all, we created a new URL search parameters, and we say, okay, the form data for title, I should use the DOM object to get the title value, and then to get the contents value. And then I send my request, but this time, as you can see, I'm sending this as a post request. Okay. Therefore, here, if we look, we have do post, not do get. Okay. And I'm sending on the body the data, because remember the post and the main difference, like the get send the data using the URL parameters. However, the post request send the data on the body. And here I just give you alert that, okay, I save the note. Then I clear the note when we say, okay, I'm going to just comment that. And then I get all note back again, just to like update this list, for example. Just say save and note saved. They give me note saved here. Say, okay. You see that? Now we have a problem. I will tell you how we can fix that. But just let me see. Okay, I will do this clear notes thing right now. Just add ABC and just say save. They are saying not saved. Okay, they are not printing this to me. Okay. I will go back to the clear note, but I will need to check why this not saving the data. Let's see. Okay, I found the problem, even though like it was very simple, but I spent some time to find it. It was just the name of this variable. This one should be selected note ID, and this was selected note, and all other variables were selected note ID. And now if I go here, I just refresh the page. If I want to add a new note, and then say ABC and save it, And yeah, note saved. And as you can see now, I have it. And if you are asking, okay, why do I have this redundant list? Like why I have code number one, another code, ABC, and then we repeat the same thing with the newly created one. Because remember, we are not creating a new HTML from scratch. We just go here to this code because after we do the save, we call get all. Now to get all, what we do, we get all the data. We send, okay, give me all data. Now this is get. We get all the data, and then after we get all the data, what we do, we just start creating li for each node and inserting this inside that node. Therefore, what I should do before I do that, I should remove everything inside this node. Okay, I should remove anything that exists before, and to do that, you just need to do this. Okay, just say before you go and start creating the li, just go here and say. Okay. Now what we are doing, we are getting the UL, the unordered list, and we are saying for each child that we have, just remove that child. Now if I save it, I refresh the page. Now we don't have a problem. Let's say here test, and then let's say test 1, 2, 3, and save, and not saved. And if you can see here, this is the newly created one. And if you just click, remember, now if I want to, for example, edit this one, I can edit it, for example, edit it and say save. Now, as you can see right now here, we printed number one because here I added a console log while I was tracking this. Here I have a console log, for example, here to print one. That means I have already selected a node and I want to update it, and this one not equal to 0. Therefore, the action gonna be update. Okay, and therefore I'm sending the selected node IT to the Java code here. The Java code. Where is it? Yeah, it's here. Java code. And yeah, I'm sending this action to update the node that I'm currently setting up. And yeah, and the last one, which is a clear node, is if I just like, let's say, do that. Okay, if I save it, I just want to show you why do we need, by the way, clear note. They will, after you click save, they will say, okay, create a new note, and then they will add this empty value for the title and for the contents. Like they just, and retrieve that back to selected note ID equals 0. Now, if we want to see this, just let me, like for example, here, if I didn't do that, let's say here I added new test 2. Here I added anything, and I say save. Okay, after I save the data, I save that. Okay, now not saved. I get the data, but still I have the form here. I don't need to have the form looks like that. What I should do, I just call clear note. Now a clear note, as I said, they will set the title to be creating a new note. They will set the value for the title, this one. This title gonna be empty, and the value of the content is going to be empty as well, and then selected node IT be 0. They're more like 0 means no node selected. Okay, because when I click on one, I change the selected node to the one that I'm currently clicking on, because here in the get, okay, like because I have an action listener for each node, I added a node ID, and therefore when I click on it, I just selected node ID. Okay, and therefore I'm using selected node ID here on the save. Either if there is no node, that means you need to create. If there is a node selected, that means you need to update. Okay, now let's save everything. Let's say new test 3.3. Anything, just say save. And yep, here we go. That's very much everything right now for using Ajax. I don't recommend that using Ajax. I recommend using React. React is way more like easier for you to organize your code, and it's more readable than using DOM. DOM is something that has become like very clearly outdated, but because this course goes with servlet JSP, then they go with Ajax. I strongly suggest that you have a look about React. React will do the same thing for you, exactly the same thing, but they will make that maybe not easier for the first time. If you know JavaScript, this might be easier for you, but with React, it's gonna be more organized and it's gonna look nicer, and a lot of shortcuts gonna be there. Okay, and yeah, that's everything for today, and have a good day.